Hello and welcome to an Anfield Index special for Media Matters. These are difficult times for everyone. We appreciate at the moment. There's not always a right and wrong thing to say, but we have made the decision to go ahead with recording today and making sure we pay our own tributes to Diogo Jota. This won't be a show where we talk about things like transfers or too wider afield. Things are just more important at the moment. And I'm joined as ever by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And David, just at the moment with all this, there's still that incredible, overwhelming feeling of sadness, isn't there, across the board?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I just feel like it still is not even close to kind of sunk in really the reality of it, because it's just a thing you just couldn't comprehend that something like this could happen. So, it sounds ludicrous almost to say that, because people die at young ages all the time, and across the world, and I guess all of us have kind of been touched by that in some way, with family or whatever or friends. But it kind of we kind of put footballers on this pedestal, don't we, of feeling that they're invincible and these things don't happen to them. And yeah, for someone who plays for Liverpool to be kind of cut down in the prime of his life like that, and obviously his brother as well, is just devastating. And it just feels multiplied by the fact that it's just so unexpected. And as I say, obviously it happened on Thursday. Incredibly, the funeral's already been, and yet you just don't feel like close to processing it. And I guess this is something that's going to have to go on into the season over the next for a long time, really, and be thinking about this and processing it. I'm sure it's very much the same for the players and the manager and the coaches and all the staff really who knew him so well. So it's just incredibly sad, and it's going to be that way for a long time, to be honest.
Yeah, there's no sort of time on this when things are going to change. Everyone will feel it different. We're both dads of young boys as well, and you think of all the scenes or the photos we've seen around Jota being married with his wife, his 3 kids, or all those photos. This is just going to hit differently for different people, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, as you say, it's the family element of it is the hardest hitting part of the whole thing. I mean, his wife and his poor children, and then obviously his mum and dad as well, and the loss that they have got to contend with. And that even in a few weeks' time, when it feels for the rest of us who are slightly removed from it that it's kind of eased off, they have got a horrible long road ahead of them, quite frankly, with just I don't know how you recover from something like this, quite frankly, and because it's so unexpected, it just feels kind of worse, because you can't plan for it, you can't get your head around it like as you could with, say, an illness or whatever. It's just just a difficult path ahead of them, really. And I suppose they can only maybe take some solace from the fact that there's been such an outpouring of love, hasn't there, around not just Liverpool but the entire footballing world. And maybe they can take some positives from that outpouring of love, and the fact that their sons were so loved across the world. Maybe that's something they can take from it, but it's still just so senseless and so hard to get your head around, really, and for them even more so. And my heart really does go out to them.
Yeah, there isn't really words for how much everyone's feeling. And I know you'll have seen this the same as me. There's been obviously tributes at Anfield, different people laying wreaths, the queues in the best possible way round the block, aren't they? And it just shows how Merseyside, but the wider Liverpool community, come together in the worst possible circumstances, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm blown away really by the size of that Anfield tribute, and the speed with which that's built up, and it just shows you the strength of feeling, doesn't it? Not just for the footballer, but the man as well, because Everton have more than played the part, not just the club itself. Which, I mean, just a quick word for them: Everton, unbelievable football club with unbelievable people in it. I think they are always there at Liverpool's lowest moments to show support. And I've covered Everton for a lot of years. Obviously, I exclusively do Liverpool at the moment, but a lot of my career as a reporter, I've been at Everton, and they are just absolutely class from top to bottom. And I think you've seen that again around this situation. As I say, their fans taking part in it as well, but fans of other clubs as well have come to show the support. And as you say, it's pretty breathtaking, isn't it? That the tributes that are there, and the size of it, really. And as I say, really, it's you just hope that the family can see that and take something from it in terms of a small positive from this, in terms of how loved their sons were, and how much of an impact this situation has had on everyone, really. So yeah, it's pretty impressive, those sights at Anfield, really, I'd say.
Yeah, and you're right about Everton. Even there was reports that Seamus Coleman came late last night on his own, sort of without any fanfare, just to pay his respects. And even you think back to all those years ago with the Reece Jones and all that, it was Tony Barrett, wasn't it, who suggested that Z-Car should be played at Anfield. There's always that connection between the two clubs. And from the Liverpool side, we've read statements from Arne Slot, Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, or all of FSG. There's never an exact right thing to say, but the words have been right. They provided comfort for some, haven't they?
Yeah, I thought they got that absolutely spot on in terms of the tone, and I have to say I was particularly impressed by. As I say, impressed, I don't know if this is the right word to use. I mean, we all can be clumsy around situations like this, but I thought Arne Slot's statement was just so bang on. It was unbelievable, really. I mean, it really moved me, I have to say. Just the way he was able to give not just a sense of the loss of a colleague and a footballer, but of the man, really, and how important he was around the place, really, and talking about how loved he was by literally everybody in the squad. I thought that was just phenomenal, really, and how lucky Liverpool are to have another figurehead following Jurgen Klopp who absolutely gets it. But it's not a given that a great football manager is going to be great with words and be able to express the right ones in a moment like this. And yet Arne Slot absolutely did that. And again, it's just something that you hope in time, maybe Diogo's wife and his parents will be able to read and take something from it, because I thought it was a really, really touching tribute, and I thought they all were, to be fair.
Yeah, there was so many that had just sort of broken us again and again, and it's quite clear as the statements have come out. Obviously, there's an incredible team ethic, that feeling at Liverpool, but you've seen from the statements the likes of Robbo, the likes of Caoimhin Kelleher, they were really close, weren't they, in that dressing room to Diogo Jota?
Yeah, I really liked Robertson's description of him as well as the most British foreign player he'd ever met. I love that. What a nice memory to have of him. And what that said to me, obviously, that was kind of based in the idea that he loved his darts, loved his horse race, and all those kind of things that are very kind of, you think of those as a quite British interest, really. But what he was saying there as well, I think, is that, and I always got this sense actually from Jota, really, is that he was never part of, you do get these cliques in dressing rooms, don't you, that are based along kind of the lines of nationality or generally languages. And that will happen absolutely naturally. I'm saying that's a negative thing at all. But it didn't feel like Jota was ever tied to any of those groups, really. He seemed, as in with the British lads and the local lads, as he was with the lads who were South American or Spanish speaking or Portuguese speaking. He really did seem to be someone who kind of crossed all those boundaries and was liked by everyone. So, I mean, you can't really pay a better tribute than that, than someone who he really was a friend to absolutely everyone in that dressing room, because it's not a necessity. This is a workplace, and sometimes you're not going to always get on with everyone or be loved by everyone, but it seems like he absolutely was. And yeah, what a legacy that is, above all of his, his ability as a footballer.
Probably says it all, like you mentioned, that all the players who attended the funeral and wake, we saw that, obviously horrible to see, but the reactions, the effect it had on them, but other players within the games and others even doing his celebration tributes, it just shows how loved he was in the world of football and wider.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly that. I mean, the funeral as well, the players being able to turn up there, I thought that was, because it's not always easy, particularly at such short notice, when that funeral was very soon, wasn't it? After he sadly passed on the Thursday. So yeah, for them to have such a turnout, really, was quite a lot of Liverpool staff there as well. I noticed who were around the first team, they all managed to get out there as well. So I thought it was a great show of support, and again, you hope it brings comfort to the family. So, but yeah, I mean, the reaction beyond that as well, as you say, the wider footballing world as well. I mean, every single club sending a message of condolence in some form, either on social media or sending flowers to the tribute or whatever. really kind of coming together, because I just think everybody could see, everyone could imagine themselves in this position, that this is, this sudden loss really, and of these young men that we all idolize. And, everyone could see what that was going to feel like, and completely understand it and show that empathy really. So, but I also think it speaks a lot as well in terms of, you've seen a lot of rival fans, an outpouring of grief, which I don't just think was based in how horrendous this situation was. I think a lot of it was kind of a recognition of, this was a footballer that people liked, because, I think he showed his personality on the pitch really. Total hard worker, aggressive, but in the completely right way. Never seemed to kind of rub people up the wrong way with it. He was just always on the line of trying his absolute best to help his team win. And he was brilliant as well. And so, people recognize that. And he was also, good fun, wasn't he? And I think a lot of people have played against him on FIFA at times. And so people felt like they knew him through that as well. So, I think that's, that again just speaks to his character, doesn't it? That the fans of so many rival clubs were just, as floored by this, really.
Yeah, fans of rival clubs, but also you look at.
I think Dave's StreamYard is playing up at the moment, but just to continue on that, because I've got the agenda here. Fortunately, I think he's one of the things he's maybe mentioned on this is kind of to go on to some favourite Jota memories, and I'm just talking about his favourite Jota memories, Dave, just to move on through the agenda when you disappeared there, and I was just thinking about that, kind of how many there are there really, because I mean, he was someone who absolutely loved a goal in a big game, and so there's quite a few of those. I mean, I really, just to pick a couple from his last season, I mean, that Fulham goal, would it, to come back with that in such important circumstances was a very, very Jota thing. I think I look at that Everton goal as arguably the most perfect last goal that anyone could ever score in the career, really, because I mean, a tight game, it's a big game, it's really important to Liverpool. The way he jinks his feet through, really cool finish at the Kop end, sending the keeper the kind of wrong way because he gives him the eyes to the far corner and comes in here. I could not think of a more Jota goal than that, really, is a really good memory of him, and I will always kind of cherish that one, because it was a very, very important goal and very, very him. But I also think you've probably got to look back as well at some of those kind of Arsenal goals, because that was his favourite opposition in a Liverpool shirt, 7 goals against Arsenal. And in terms of favourites out of those, I mean, maybe that one where he picks the ball up from a bad pass out and sits 2 or 3 people down on the back sides before passing it into the net. That's a really, really good memory. And again, you think of players in the squad and footballers, and kind of how football is an extension of their personality, and everybody plays the game in a different way. He had I just could not imagine anybody else in the squad scoring that goal in the way that he did, that sitting everybody down in the way he did. Others would have just gone for the finish earlier or whatever, but he just wanted to make sure, and he just had that drop of the shoulder that everybody fell for. So maybe that's the one I probably most remember him for, really. And but there was a lot of good memories, and you only have to go through Neil Jones's tweets of 3-1 Jota. He sealed quite a lot of games in his time at Liverpool, either the winning goal or one to absolutely seal it. So a lot of good memories there.
Yeah, even we forget when you watch back the highlights how many goals at Old Trafford he got in that 5-0. Also, even when the COVID years in the 4-2, the backheeled flick. Yeah, always a goal for the big occasion for his teammates as well. And this is maybe the hardest bit. There's the unknown element. We're not quite sure how it will affect those players and how it will affect them individually. But they'll need support from us, and they'll all need support from the clubs, and keeping an eye on a little bit for their welfare, won't they?
Yeah, because it's going to affect them all very differently as well. I think the key thing here is they've got to think about is, some of these players are going to want to play on. They're going to want to just kind of get it out of the system, or find a way of kind of almost not to forget about it, but a chance to kind of just put the mind on something else by playing through it. And then there are going to be other players who are not going to take that mindset. There are going to be players who will not feel right for a while to kind of play, and it won't be a good distraction for them. They'll just be thinking about it while they're on the pitch, because that is a lot of how they interacted with Diogo. So it's got to be kind of horses for courses and just work through it on an individual basis and what is best for each player, really. So we'll have to see how that's done. But Liverpool, the way they operate, the support staff that they've got behind the scenes, they'll be very understanding and they will work through this together. And there's a very tight squad as well, so they will all be there to support each other. So I'm confident they will be able to do that. And it's absolutely crazy that that process is going to have to start soon because pre-season's starting soon, and it feels ridiculous to even consider that. I'll talk about it, but yeah, that process of kind of supporting each other is going to start very soon, and we'll just have to see how they manage that. But I'm sure they will.
Yeah, no doubts that they will. And Liverpool always do the best they can in these situations. I mean, I've seen reports, you're never sure exactly how it works, but that reports that of his last 2 years, they'll pay those to the family, but Liverpool will make sure that family's taken care of, whatever, as will the players, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't personally can't vouch for those reports. I have to admit, I've just completely kind of switched off over the weekend with anything kind of football based, really, because I just don't want to think about it or face it, really, if I'm being honest. And so I'm not entirely sure about that aspect of it. But as you say, I think they will kind of do the right thing and they will show the support, and you would expect that from Liverpool because they do act with class in situations like this. And I think that would be absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And this will sort of go on. Nothing's linear with this, people. But naturally, there's a little things happening this week. And we try and, as people will say, move on, if that's even the right word. And you alluded to it there, David. I think, is it Tuesday? It seems to suggest that's been delayed. They'll come back and assess everything for them, won't they? But Tuesday's the day when they come back.
Yeah, and it's just going to be a kind of a crazy one, really, isn't it? Because I mean, they've all got to come back and they've all got work to do. They've all got to do the kind of bleep test or however they do it these days, or the lactate test, and get themselves, start to do the preparation. And it just doesn't. Yeah. It just seems laughable to be talking about this stuff as if this is in any way serious. But of course, we all have to, and we've all suffered losses and we've all moved forward with our lives. We've all gone back to work the week after a funeral or whatever, and had to crack on with it, because that's what we do as human beings. That's how we have to live with these things. And it's absolutely terrible, but that's, life does go forward. It doesn't go forward in the same way. You never maybe feel right about it or whatever, but you've got to keep putting kind of one foot in front of the other. And yeah, so the plan at the moment, I think, is to bring them back in on Tuesday, and then, but it will be a case of, as I say, case for case basis, who feels up for what, who feels able to do what's needed in that day, because they're just going to have to kind of, look after each other, really. And yeah, but that process, maybe it will help some of them, maybe it won't help others. We'll have to see, but that's currently the plan, and then we will see what will happen with the friendly that's scheduled in for the weekend, really.
I suppose in terms of that Preston game, which is scheduled for the weekend, is it just a case of Arne Slot sitting down with the players and having a big, open, honest discussion, isn't it? Feeling who's capable, do we think this is right, how do we want to do it, and go from there.
Yeah, and there will be no judgment of anyone who doesn't feel quite right, who needs a little bit more time. But footballers as well, though, that they generally, I think to get to where they are in the careers, you've got to have unbelievable resilience anyway. You've got to deal with setbacks, and you're talking about football in setbacks, but they hit you hard. So you do have to build up that kind of character and the strength of character. So I do wonder, and I just knowing footballers generally, I would imagine the majority of the squad will be of the mindset of, right, let's get stuck into our work and give us something to kind of focus on. And really, I can go and lift weights in the gym. I can do my running, because when you're doing that, you're not thinking about what has gone on, really. And you're not, focusing on the negatives and the sadness, really. So, I think knowing footballers, they will want to kind of just get stuck into it, really.
Yeah. Sometimes even, and I don't know if this is the right word, but to try and focus for a distraction, however people would want to put it in that regard. And I mean, at the same time, there's changes at the club that we're hearing as well, isn't it? We know that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has been confirmed, and Xavi Valero's coming back in as a goalkeeping coach, isn't he? Which I don't know if it caught people by surprise before this, but just came out of nowhere a little bit.
Yeah, I really didn't expect a change in the goalkeeping department. If I'm being honest, I mean, obviously Fabian Ossa had only been there for a single season. Taffarel was an established part of that staff, so to have that change, a bit of a surprise. I would say with Valero, it seems a very smart appointment. You read up on him and how highly rated he was, and I think it says a lot that he kind of was there through a lot of managerial changes at West Ham, so highly regarded by every single manager that came in, really, after being brought there by Manuel Pellegrini. And obviously coming back to Liverpool, he is highly rated. He's a bit more experienced than Fabian Otta as well, which maybe will have been a kind of a factor in that decision. But he also knows Liverpool and knows what he's coming back to. And he's actually coming back to a club that's in a much better position now. So, but obviously would have been absolutely happy to do that. So looks a smart appointment. And then you throw in, of course, Van Bronckhorst as well, who, I've said before, I think it's a bit of a coup to get him. He's someone who's been managing most recently, and had a couple of disappointing experiences there, but generally he's won trophies, he's done okay, and got to European finals. So I think he's seems like a really smart appointment, and that coaching staff is looking strong. But of course, like you say, in these kind of first few days when they come back, what a strange situation it is for them to come back into. Similarly for the new signings as well. This would usually be such a happy time and an exciting time for them, and they're coming into a really tricky situation. And obviously it's not the first thing you think about in this situation, but for them, particular players who are coming from abroad and they're in a settling in period, this will make it more difficult for them. So I do, like I say, it's not the most difficult part of this, but I do feel for them a little bit around this. And again, just hope the players have got the emotional range and the capability to try and help them settle in with everything else that they're dealing with at the moment, because it's just very, very tricky for everyone, really.
Yeah, you're right. It is understandable that the likes of Kerkez, Frimpong, Wirtz, etc., they'll be thinking, like, how do we react? How are we supposed to be in this situation during that adaptation period? So, yeah, everyone's just, I suppose, got to help each other. And with the backroom changes, and especially the two departures, there was always the sense of when Taffarel left the club, there'd be question marks around Alisson, wasn't there? So does that just seem like, is there anything that people will be thinking about there, or is it just that maybe it's the time?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I couldn't get a kind of clear answer about what that kind of means for Alisson when I asked a few days ago, really. But I don't think they're that tightly tied to each other in terms of the fates, and just reading between the lines on Liverpool's statement, because as I say, it's very difficult to dig into the story. I've just been completely switched off from it all, really, since Thursday, if I'm being completely honest. But reading between the lines on the statement there, it just felt like it was Taffarel's decision to kind of move on, and I think with Alisson, yes, he is tied to him, but I think there's a very strong possibility of, you've got a Spanish-speaking coach coming in there in Xavi Valero, someone who knows the club, someone who will make it. I know, obviously, he's Portuguese-speaking, but you can kind of get by, and there's that mutual understanding and, cultural similarities there or whatever. So, I'm sure he will be, he will work well for him. And I don't think it's the case that, Taffarel's gone, Alisson will have to go now. I just think it's going to be a case of, I still think, over the next couple of seasons, his future is definitely up in the air, isn't it? But I still, would put good money on him being in the Liverpool squad next season. I'd be surprised if he moves on, because we haven't heard any kind of rumours around that or anything. So, I still am of the mindset that maybe at least one more season and then we see where we're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And for this pod, ladies and gents, what we said at the start before, me and David, it's not the day to talk transfers. It feels wrong. It feels hollow to even start to speculate on those stories. This is not the right time. This is about Liverpool and the players themselves, the club as a whole, the fan base. And just because I know we've had messages at Anfield Index saying about, obviously, that sometimes just hearing a pod does bring a crumb of comfort that way. There's been a few different things that Liverpool have started to release this on the website as well. Actually, a few expert views. They've always got their own analysts or people that they recognise. I don't know if you'd seen these or you'd made anything of them at all for the Kerkez and Wirtz ones.
Yeah, good insights into the players, really, and what they can bring to Liverpool. And, again, it kind of seems crazy to talk about it, doesn't it? But these games are coming. We're going to get a look at these players, and the season's going to start. Next month the season starts. Again, crazy to think about it, really. But we're going to get a glimpse of these players, and for all the sadness at the moment, there's something to kind of look forward to in that there will be moments of joy ahead and enjoyable football. And Liverpool have put together a very, very good team again, and that we all do love football and we love Liverpool, and so that's going to be exciting to kind of see that, really. So looking forward to seeing these two players, really, and seeing how they fit in and how they make Liverpool better, because there's a good chance that they will be able to do that, and that is very much the aim. So we could and we can allow ourselves to be excited about that and to look forward to seeing them, because there's joy in football, and the reason that that's why we feel so sad about what's happened, because of all the joy that Diogo Jota brought us. So we shouldn't feel guilty about that. And I guess it's kind of interesting just to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. I'm kind of again, it's from a personal point of view, as a freelancer, as a kind of a content creator, if you want to call it, you don't know when's appropriate to start thinking about or talking about these things, and everyone will maybe have a different view on that or whatever. Is it tomorrow when they start pre-season? Is it? I don't know what the answer is. Maybe people in the comments can tell us. I don't know, but you've got to probably kind of do what's right for you in terms of these things. And I don't know how to approach that, really, but we probably shouldn't forget that there are positives to hold on to, which is that the football will be back, and we will smile and we will enjoy it and we will love it. And it won't just all be in the context of the loss that we've suffered. It will be, we'll be able to look at it differently, and we should be excited about that, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. It's absolutely a tough one, and there is absolutely no exact answer. As Cal Joe says there, that the club will set the pace and go along with it. And ultimately, that feels a lot of what it comes down to, doesn't it? How it affects the players, the staff. As you said, we saw like the medical staff who were in bits, understandably, at the funeral and the wake. We've just got to, as a fan base, just almost wrap our arms around them and just go with that, haven't we? Support them as best as possible and keep going.
Yeah, and there's good. I mean, these friendlies. I mean, if the one, I really don't know about the one at the weekend, but if that goes ahead, I think that's going to be an unbelievable show of support and emotion. And these moments will help the players. They'll also make it harder for them at times, I guess. To hear "You'll Never Walk Alone" sung the next time is going to be something incredibly emotional, really. So, and all the tributes that we'll see, the flags, the banners, everything else. The singing of Diogo's song, which is going to be inevitable. But that's going to be the opportunities to come together and mourn together and grieve. And so you just got to kind of embrace that. And I guess, that's probably one of the reasons actually we would like to see the Preston game go ahead, I think, is because I think, that first opportunity to do that for everyone to get together, because of course the game after that is on tour, and so there won't be that chance. So, maybe this will be a nice chance, but of course, like you say, take the guidance from the club and whatever's right for the players and the staff, of course. They are the absolute priority in this situation. But it would almost be nice to have that game, to just for that reason, really, to have everyone come together and be able to kind of express what this means, really. We will see what comes of when they meet up on Tuesday and they have conversations amongst themselves, really, about whether the players and the staff do feel right for it to go ahead. But if it does, it'll be, I think it's going to be a pretty special, but maybe pretty difficult atmosphere at Preston as well, where a lot of tears, but a lot of singing of songs, and "You'll Never Walk Alone," and a lot of emotion as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a tough time, ladies and gents, and all we can really say is if we provided any sort of crumb of comfort, a degree of solace just from the podcast listening to us, we hope that helps in some way. And it was a tough one for both of us, but all it really leaves me to say is, David, for the time, insight, and for coming on. Obviously, it's not the easiest circumstances. It is much appreciated.
No, thank you, mate. Thank you.
And ladies and gents, that was a Media Matters special for Anfield Index.